Our next glimpse into the heart of Rome takes us not to the palaces or arenas, but to the city's outskirts, to the forgotten tales of a neglected part of the empire's grand narrative. Here, where the earth is parched and the sun beats down amidst the dust and heat, we meet Spartacus, a Thracian by birth. He's strong, enduring, a seasoned gladiator. His face is weathered, his muscles honed, the definition of physical perfection to the Romans. He's played the game well, survived the games, defied death again and again, all for the amusement of Rome's restless crowds. Yet today, the Colosseum and its roaring spectators are far from his thoughts. Today, Spartacus walks with a different fire in his eyes, his steps purposeful, unwavering. He moves not as a plaything of fate, but as a man on a mission. The familiar arena is replaced by rugged hills, the cheers of the crowd by the murmur of rebellion. He speaks little, but when he does, his words ignite like wildfire in the dry plains of revolt. Freedom, he says, and men rally to his call. They come from far and wide, these men, Gauls, Thrace, Greece, all united under the banner of liberty. For years, they have been the chattel of Rome, bought and sold, branded and beaten, denied even their names. But now, under Spartacus, they are brothers in arms, forging a bond, forged not in blood, but in the shared dream of a life unbound. What follows is a blur of motion and purpose, training, planning, silent marches, lightning strikes, abandoned weapons, stolen armor, the taste of victory and the sting of loss, the faces of fallen comrades etched in Spartacus's memory. Through it all, he remains resolute, a beacon of defiance in a sea of despair. He heals the wounded, comforts the grieving, pushes forward without fear. Spartacus leads, not with the sword, though he wields it well, but with his spirit. His vision of a world where men are not things, where the sun shines on more than just a privileged few. This band of rebels grows, swells to nearly 70,000 men, a tide of humanity surging against the shores of Roman control. They fight? Oh, how they fight! With the fury of the downtrodden, with the desperation of those who have nothing left to lose. At times, they win. Villas are burned, columns are broken, centurions fall. The rumble of rebellion echoes through the hills. These are not gladiators anymore. They are insurgents, warriors, brothers. They demand not just freedom, but equality. Equality. But Rome is a colossus, and Spartacus, though brilliant, cannot best her fully. His end comes not on the battlefield, but in the aftermath. Captured, betrayed, he stands alone before the magistrate. The dust settles around him, the crowd hushed, sensing the end. Spartacus, the gladiator, the rebel, the symbol of hope, is about to be extinguished. The magistrate offers him freedom, wealth, power, all in exchange for his comrades' lives. But Spartacus is Spartacus. His response is a quiet, firm shake of the head. He accepts his fate without a whimper. The crowds jeer, chant, call for his death, each word a nail in the coffin of hope. But in their eyes, there is a flicker of something else: respect, admiration, maybe even envy. The echo of Spartacus's rebellion resonates long after his final act of defiance. Even in chains, he stands tall, a monument to courage. He dies, if die he does, with his head held high, a silent salute to the setting sun. And in that moment, somewhere, somehow, the spirit of Spartacus finds release, merging with the wind that whispers through the plains, carrying his story to every corner of the vast Roman Empire. And in the silence of that whisper, there's a promise of remembrance. He may be gone, but his legend, the legend of Spartacus, the gladiator who dared to defy an empire and in doing so became immortal, lives on. It echoes through the ages, resonating with every heart that yearns for freedom. And that, my friends, is why gladiators, the mere word conjures images of men locked in deadly combat, of dust-filled arenas, the roar of the crowd. But what if I told you there's more to the story? Much more. Join me for Gladiator Secrets, where we pull back the curtain on the lives and deaths of these legendary warriors. From the truth about their armor to how they actually fought, I'll reveal all the secrets the Colosseum is hiding. And that's not all. I've got more surprises up my sleeve. Stories so intriguing, they'll leave you breathless. Like, did you know gladiators could own their weapons? That's right. I'm just scratching the surface. So much more to uncover. Don't miss out. Become a member today, and let's dive into the heart of ancient Rome together. But wait, I hear you asking, who was Spartacus? Ah, yes, Spartacus. The name echoes through time, a symbol of defiance against the mighty Roman Empire. Born in Thrace, a region far from the heart of Rome, Spartacus wasn't destined for greatness. At least, that's how his story started. Captured and sold into slavery, he found himself in the infamous gladiator school of Capua. This wasn't just any place. It was a crucible where men were turned into weapons, honing their skills for the amusement of the masses. But Spartacus wasn't any ordinary slave. As he learned the brutal arts of the gladiator, he also hatched a plan. Escape wasn't just a thought, it was an obsession. Every thrust of the sword, every parry of the shield was a step in his personal battle. Then came the breakout, daring, audacious, and almost unbelievable. He and a small band of gladiators fled, not knowing what lay ahead, but carrying the spark of freedom. This was no longer about survival, it was about hope. And that hope ignited a fire in the hearts of many. Slaves from across Italy joined him, drawn to his cause, forming an army of the downtrodden. Spartacus wasn't just leading a rebellion, he was becoming a legend. Each victory over the Roman legions added to his fame, sending tremors through the heart of the empire. Rome responded, as it often did, with brute force. But Spartacus and his army held their ground. The story reached a fever pitch when Spartacus crossed paths with the formidable Marcus Licinius Crassus. Theirs was a battle of ideologies, of oppression versus rebellion, of order versus chaos. In the end, Spartacus's dream of freedom was crushed, his life cut short, his head hung as a warning. Yet his spirit lived on in the whispers of the ages, a testament to the indomitable spirit of those who dared to defy the giants. What do you think? What would you have done? Would you have endured, resisted, or escaped? Share your thoughts. Can't wait to hear them. And hey, don't forget to hit subscribe. More adventures in ancient Rome await. The year is 117 AD. The emperor is Trajan, recently deified. The place is a Roman villa. It's nestled amid the gentle hills of suburban Rome. Its gardens are brimming with the buzz of bees and the chirp of crickets. The air is alive with the scent of orange blossom and the tang of salt from the nearby sea. Here, life unfolds at the pace of the sun. The day begins with the soft light of dawn, seeping through the windows of the atrium, rousing the slumbering household from their sleep. Slaves, attendants, gardeners, all stir, preparing for the day ahead. Their master, a Roman aristocrat, stretches luxuriously on his couch, lost in the haze of dreams. His wife, adorned in fine linen, reclines nearby, her fingers idly playing with a pearl necklace. There are signs of wealth everywhere in the polished marble floors, in the frescoed walls depicting scenes from Greek mythology. In the fountain's gentle murmur as water cascades into its basin. The master rises, and with practiced grace, begins his ablutions. Slaves bring him scented oils and bathe him in their warmth. They shave his face and neck, leaving them smooth and unblemished. He adorns himself in a linen toga, cinched at the waist with a golden girdle. Kay's wife, two dresses in her finest garments, draping herself in purple and gold. Breakfast arrives, a lavish affair of fresh fruit, honey-sweetened cakes, and wine. They eat, they talk, they plan their day. The master checks the progress of his latest building project, a triumphal arch in the city of Rome. his wife discusses the latest fashions from Greece. Slaves fanned him gently, anticipating their every need. Later, they might stroll through the gardens, perhaps to a secluded grotto where a marble statue of Aphrodite presides over a bubbling spring, or they might take a litter to the shore, watching as their slaves row a small boat into the waves, bringing back fresh fish for dinner. As the sun begins its slow dip toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the villa, they might host a dinner party, inviting friends and family. Laughter echoes, wine flows, music drifts through the open windows, mingling with the sounds of conversation. Slaves move among the guests, serving up delicacies such as roasted peacock and spiced figs. The night deepens, the moon ascends, and the party moves on to the theater, where actors perform scenes from the tragedies of Seneca or the comedies of Plautus. The villa is a microcosm of Roman culture, a blend of Greek refinement and Italian comfort. The master and mistress, immersed in their world of privilege, may seem remote from the struggles of their slaves, unaware of the toll on their human servants. But these great houses were also the product of slave labor, built with the sweat and sorrow of those whose lives were unfree. And so, amidst the marble and mosaic, the laughter and the light, the shadows of the enslaved linger, reminding us that even in the heights of Roman luxury, humanity was not always free. Now, let us return to the imperial heartland, the bustling city of Rome itself. Picture yourself strolling along the Via Sacra, the sacred way, in the heart of ancient Rome. The year is 114 AD, and the city is at the zenith of its glory. You pass the Column of Trajan, still gleaming from its recent erection, its helical bands narrating the emperor's triumphs in Dacia. Further on, the towering Colosseum stands bathed in the morning sun, promising the roar of crowds and the spectacle of the Roman games. The forum is alive with activity. Senators in their fine togas debate in the Curia. Merchants hawk their wares in the bustling marketplace. The Basilica of Julia, newly renovated, shelters litigants and lawyers arguing their cases. Beyond the forum, the Palatine and Aventine hills rise, crowned by the imposing Lateran Palace, the seat of the bishop, who is fast becoming an influential figure in the sprawling city. Rome is a place of power and intrigue. In the Senate, the Optimates, led by the shrewd Marcus Junius Brutus, vie for influence with the populares, championed by the charismatic Gaius Gracchus. Citizens mill about, discussing politics, gossip, the latest scandals. You might overhear talk of the emperor's adopted heir, Hadrian, and wonder about his future rule. You could be a senator, rubbing shoulders with the elite, sipping expensive wine in taverns. Or you could be a citizen, haggling over the price of grain or the quality of cloth. You could be a slave, toiling in the shadows, unseen, unheard. For all its grandeur, Rome is a city of contrasts, of marble palaces and hidden slums, of public spectacles and private intrigues, of power, poverty, and everything in between. The Colosseum awaits its nightly spectacle, the Forum, its legal drama, and in the quiet shadows, the ordinary drama of life plays out too. Love, loss, ambition, betrayal, hope, all under the watchful gaze of the emperors, past and present. And so, our journey through the heart of the Roman world continues. We've explored the sands of the desert and the wilds of the north, the sun-drenched villas, and the bustling streets of Rome. Now, it is up to you to decide where we go next. In the twilight years of imperial Rome, when emperors held court in sumptuous palaces and gladiators fought to the death in vast arenas, there existed a hidden world of quiet grandeur, tucked away from the clamor of the Colosseum and the intrigues of the Senate. Wealthy Romans sought solace in their country villas, oases of tranquility amidst the sprawling chaos of the empire. One such villa nestled in the rolling hills of central Italy. Far from the dusty roads and bustling marketplaces was an emblem of understated elegance. Here, within the embrace of thick stone walls, a small community of slaves and freedmen went about their daily tasks, their lives a tapestry of rituals and routines that defined the essence of a wealthy Roman's existence. Your journey back in time begins at the outermost gate of the estate, where the manicured gardens gave way to a winding path. As you step into the heart of the villa, you find yourself in the atrium, the soul of the Roman house. Gazing up, you notice that the roof here was designed to mimic the heavens, complete with artificial clouds painted on the ceiling. This central chamber was the focal point of life indoors, where family members and guests alike would have conversed, dined, and conducted business, all while enjoying the gentle trickle of water from the fountain in the impluvium. The walls were adorned with family crests and the weathered faces of ancestors, each feature serving as a silent reminder of the family's lineage and legacy. In one corner, the dim glow of an oil lamp illuminated rows upon rows of scrolls stored in the tablinum, the study. Here, the master of the house would have read over his correspondence and important documents, occasionally pausing to make notes on a wax tablet, a common practice among the elite classes who often communicated in this manner instead of writing on papyrus. Stepping out of the atrium, you find yourself in the peristyle, a colonnaded courtyard filled with clipped hedges and fragrant flowers. The air is alive with the buzz of insects and the soft murmur of voices as slaves and freedmen engaged in lively banter while tending to their tasks. Further ahead, the culinary delights wafting from the galena, the kitchen, entice you to follow the tantalizing aromas. Inside, a gaggle of slaves bustled about their duties, stirring sauces, kneading dough, and stoking the fires. The kitchen, much like the heart of a bustling beehive, thrummed with activity as they prepared meals fit for a Roman feast. From the kitchen, you hear the rhythmic scrape of a knife against a marble table, drawing your attention to the dining room known as the triclinium. Here, 3 couches were positioned at right angles to one another, allowing those reclining on them to fully indulge in the pleasures of the table without any discomfort. Before indulging in the feast, slaves would first lay a fresh white cloth upon the table, shoring a pristine surface for the meal. The aroma of roasted meats, fresh loaves of bread, and sweet delicacies filled the air, creating an ambience of pure indulgence. As you observe the scene, a group of literati, elegantly dressed men of leisure, reclined on the couches, sipping wine and discussing poetry. They engage in witty banter, their laughter echoing through the room, while a slave silently and deftly serves each course of the meal. After the midday repast, the intensity of the sun begins to subside, giving way to the cooler hours of the afternoon. The peristyle, now bathed in the soft glow of late afternoon light, becomes a site of quiet contemplation. Some slaves engage in games of chess, their voices hushed with concentration, while others prefer to lose themselves in the pages of a scroll, finding solace in the written word. As the shadows lengthen and the air grows cooler, the focus shifts to the Balinium, the Roman bathhouse. Here, the warm mist mingles with the scent of oil and herbs, creating a haven of relaxation and rejuvenation. Slaves and freedmen, both men and women, bathe in the tepid water, scrubbing their bodies with rough pumice stones and scraping away dead skin. The process is not merely for cleanliness, but also a form of social bonding and relaxation. As the sky deepens into twilight, the villa falls silent. By one, the lamps are extinguished, leaving the rooms in darkness. The peristyle, now deserted, echoes with the day's remnants. And as the moon replaces the sun, the shadows grow long, enveloping the villa in an ethereal glow. The day is done, the rituals concluded, and the villa prepares for slumber, its inhabitants tucked into their beds, lost to the dreams that dance behind closed eyelids. If you enjoyed this glimpse into a day in the life of a wealthy Roman, stay tuned for more historical tales. Thank you for watching. Sleep, even in ancient Rome, bore resemblance to death. The stillness of the body, the drift of the soul of these, mirrored the transition that, for Romans, was more than an end. It was a rite, a passage, a continuation. Now, let the hush of history fall upon you. Close your eyes and let the images come to you. Imagine yourself walking slowly along the edge of a Roman road, perhaps the Via Pia. The stones underfoot are worn smooth by generations. To your right and left, tombs rise, orderly yet personal, no graveyards tucked away, hidden from daily view. In Rome, the dead lined the roads ever present, never forgotten. For the Romans, remembrance was essential. To be forgotten was to truly die. And so, even in death, a person retained a name, a stone, kiet, an epitaph carved with care. Here lies Marcus, baker by trade, loved by his wife and sons, a quiet legacy. Before us stretches the Roman road. To the right, the Via Appia, one of Rome's ancient thoroughfares, leads us away from the bustling city. It is here where we will find the tombs, not sequestered in a cemetery, but aligned along the road. They are part of the landscape, silent witnesses to the passage of time. Some are grand, some are humble, but all tell a story. Here, a raised platform supports a towering monument of white marble. It is adorned with statues of a grieving woman and 2 children, their forms frozen in a tableau of despair. There, an aged man sits alone, lost in thought, his gaze directed toward the distant road. Nearby, a pair of lovers, their fingers intertwined, seem to lean into each other, finding solace in their eternal bond. Each sculpture narrates a unique tale of loss and remembrance, each a testament to the universality of human emotion. The scene before us is one of both tranquility and solemnity. The air is heavy with the scent of blooming oleander and the soft murmur of cicadas. Sunlight filters through the leaves of ancient olive trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground. Despite the serenity, there is a profound sadness here, a recognition of life's fragility and the inevitability of death. Yet, it is not a depressing scene, but rather a sobering one, a reminder of the preciousness of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. These tombs are not merely places of internment, but sanctuaries of memory. They stand as symbols of the deep emotional bonds that connected the Romans to their ancestors and loved ones. As we continue our walk along the Appian Way, the tombs become a backdrop to the passage of time. We can almost hear the echo of footsteps from centuries past, feel the weight of history beneath our feet. The road stretches before us, a tangible link to the past, inviting us to reflect on the enduring nature of love, loss, and remembrance. You have reached a fork in the road. To the right, the Appian Way continues its ancient course. Straight ahead, a path diverges, leading to a clearing. It beckons you with the promise of tranquility. Which way will you go? Now, let us peel back another layer of ancient Rome's grandeur, unveiling the lives of its citizens through the stories of their day. We've explored the opulence of the elite, the clamor of the forum. But what about the pulse of daily life? What did a typical day look like for a Roman man, woman, or child? Let's find out. Picture yourself in the heart of Rome. The year is 80 AD. You wake in a domus, a middle-class household. Sunlight streams through your atrium, illuminating the mosaic floors and frescoes on the walls. Outside, the city is stirring. Vendors' calls mingle with the clatter of carts and the murmur of conversation. If you are a woman of this household, your day will likely center around the domestic sphere. You prepare breakfast for your family, perhaps enjoying a repast of eggs, olives, and bread dipped in wine vinegar. Your husband, a merchant or artisan, has already left for the forum, the bustling center of Roman life, while your children, a son of 12 and a daughter of 8, are getting ready for school. Education was highly valued in Roman culture, and your son, accompanied by a slave or freedman, walks to the local school. There, he sits on a low stool with other boys, learning his letters and the basics of reading and writing. He also studies geometry and music. Meanwhile, your daughter stays home, receiving instruction from a female slave or a free woman. Her lessons focus on household management, weaving, and perhaps some reading. The morning progresses. You attend to your household tasks, preparing food, tending to slaves, or perhaps engaging in some business of your own. In ancient Rome, women could own property and engage in commerce. As a member of the middle class, you might own slaves to assist in your household or business, individuals who themselves have stories to tell. Stories of their lives before enslavement and their hopes for the future. In the afternoon, your son returns home from school. Together, you enjoy some free time, perhaps strolling through the vibrant Via Sacra. It's a sacred way, lined with shops and taverns. The sight and smell of fresh figs and grapes tempt you, reminding you of the bounty of the Roman Empire. You purchase some fruit to enjoy later. As the day wanes, you gather with your family for dinner, sharing stories of your experiences. Your son proudly recites a poem he's learned at school. Afterwards, there's a lull in activity. Perhaps a father plays a game of chess with his son while the mother tends to household accounts. The evening ends quietly with prayers to the household gods, a bedtime story for your daughter, and the comforting routine of locking up for the night. But this is just one story in the grand tapestry of Roman life. What about a soldier on the Rhine or a slave in the gladiator barracks? Each had a unique experience. Imagine a young recruit, barely a man, thrust into the brutal world of Roman soldiery. His day begins before sunrise, not with breakfast, but with weapons training. Leather jerkin and helmet on, he learns the deadly dance of the gladius, the short sword that can mean the difference between life and death on the battlefield. Hours of drilling, leaping, parrying follow, punctuated by the sharp commands of the centurion, the non-stop thwack of wood on wood. This is no gentleman's game. Every movement is meant to end a fight, to disable, to kill. At midday, there's a brief respite. The recruit, along with his fellow legionaries, gathers for a meager meal. Think of it less as food and more as sustenance. Maybe a chunk of cheese with bread, some salted meat if they're lucky. Afterward, it's back to work. For a recruit, there's little glory, only menial tasks, cleaning armor, fetching supplies, making sure the Eagle standards are unblemished. By evening, he's not just tired, he's filthy, aching, homesick. The recruit sleeps not in a warm bed, but curled in the corner of a tent with a few dozen others. His dreams, if he dares to dream, are filled with home and the life he once knew. And yet, despite the hardships, there's camaraderie, the shared joke. It's a song at night that bolsters them for the next day. Because being a Roman soldier isn't just about fighting. It's about being part of something bigger than oneself, about defending not just Rome, but the world they know. The lives of the Romans were as varied as the provinces in their empire. The key to understanding them lies in the details of their daily routines. So keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep bringing ancient Rome to life. Because history isn't just about dates and battles. It's about the everyday lives of ordinary people living in extraordinary times. Emperor Hadrian gazes out over the vast expanse of his empire, a sprawling tapestry woven across 3 continents. In the east, the sun glints off the towers of the Acropolis in Athens. In the west, the North Sea wind whips across the ramparts of a fort in Britain. From the deserts of Egypt to the rolling hills of Gaul, Hadrian's domain is vast and varied. Yet, despite its size and diversity, this empire of disparate parts is held together by a common thread: roads. Let your mind wander now to the long, silent stretch of a Roman road straight as a spear thrown across the land. The sky is pale above, the stones beneath your feet worn smooth by centuries of passage. There is no hurry here, only the steady rhythm of steps, hooves, and cartwheels echoing faintly in your imagination. You are walking along the Via Appia, perhaps one of the most famous of Rome's roads, the Queen of Roads, they call it. Late in the 4th century BCE, it runs from Rome to the southeastern port of Brundisium, now Brundisium. But this is only one thread in a vast, carefully woven web that stretched for over 250,000 miles at the empire's peak. These roads were feats of engineering and endurance. Dug deep, layered with gravel and crushed stone, topped with heavy paving slabs. Their design was deliberate, built to last, built for function. Troops could move swiftly, goods flowed from one province to another. Messages could travel more rapidly than ever before in the ancient world. Imagine yourself as a courier now, writing under orders with a sealed letter tied beneath your tunic. You pass mile marker short, squat stone columns, noting distance from Rome. The wind pulls gently at your cloak. Occasionally, you pass way stations mutadio for changing horses, mansionese for resting, all organized, scheduled, known, okay? But beneath your feet, beyond the visible surface of the road, lies an invisible lifeline, the aqueduct. The Roman aqueduct system was a marvel of quiet genius. Channels, sometimes underground, sometimes spanning vast stone bridges, brought water from distant hills into the heart of cities. Its gravity alone guided the flow. The incline so carefully calculated that it barely revealed itself to the eye. In Rome itself, over 200 million gallons of fresh water flowed in daily at the empire's height. 2 public baths, fountains, homes of the wealthy, and even 2 underground sewers like the Cloaca Maxima. Picture the Pont du Gard, the elegant, triple-tiered aqueduct bridge in Gaul, modern-day France. The arches soar over the river, casting long shadows across the water's surface. It has stood for nearly 2,000 years. Or imagine a quiet hillside where an aqueduct pipe once emerged, framed by vegetation, the trickle of water cool and clean in the Roman sun. Engineers checked flow, removed sediment, and maintained the integrity of the channel with tools that had changed little for generations. The road and the aqueduct were both physical and symbolic evidence of Rome's reach, order, and ambition. They made daily life possible. They made the military mobile. They connected diverse peoples in distant provinces. And now, in the stillness, you can picture it, the solemn march of legionaries on a paved road. The whisper of water flowing through carefully aligned stone. It's the hum of an empire built not just on conquest, but on construction. Rest now in that image. Let the roads stretch outward in every direction, straight and true. Let the water continue to flow beneath the ground, steady and silent. It's the infrastructure of an ancient world, enduring even in sleep. Now, close your eyes and imagine yourself transported back to the bustling streets of Rome. You hear the rhythmic clank of a blacksmith's hammer. It's the murmur of traders in the forum, the excited chatter of children playing near the Trevi fountain. Around you, the city buzzes with life. But just beyond the vibrant heart of the metropolis, the spirit of ancient Rome lingers still. You see the imposing silhouette of the Colosseum against the azure sky. Envision the roar of the crowd as gladiators clash in the arena. The Pantheon's grand dome seems to touch the heavens themselves. The Arch of Titus stands as a silent sentinel, whispering tales of past triumphs. As you explore these timeless ruins, you can almost hear the echoes of a bygone era. And then there's the food, the tantalizing aromas of Roman cuisine wafting through the air. The taste of freshly baked bread, the succulent juiciness of roasted chicken, the sweet indulgence of honey and figs. Each bite is a celebration of life in ancient Rome. Now, if you found this journey through time and taste delightful, we have more immersive experiences waiting for you. Why not join us for more adventures? We've been exploring ancient Rome together this semester, and you've been an incredible guide, okay? Now, before we say our final goodbyes, I thought we could drop in on one last location. I know it won't be on any guidebook itinerary, so grab your walking sandals. We're going off the beaten path. In this series, we followed emperors through triumphal arches and ordinary citizens along the Appian Way. We've stood in the shadow of the Colosseum as gladiators clashed nearby. But now, let us step away from those clamor and crowds. For in the hush of a household, far from the forum's bustling ways, religion played out its drama, not in marble temples, but in the subtle turns of daily life. Our destination is the lararium, a shrine tucked into the atrium, catching the first light of dawn. You'd find them all across Rome, in grand mansions or modest homes. Religion wasn't confined to mighty Jupiter's temple. It lived in corners too. The lararium might be a simple painted scene on the wall, or a freestanding altar, but what truly mattered were the offerings nestled within, tiny figurines, symbols of devotion. It's times just a plate holding incense or fresh grain. The patron, a male head of household, tended this space. Each morning, he'd tend the small flame within, making sure it never went out. He'd pour libation, a bit of wine or milk, a whisper of prayer. He sprinkled salt or meal, perhaps touched a stone that felt warm to the touch. These weren't grand gestures, but threads in a tapestry. They wove past and present, ancestors and descendants, the Loris, protective spirits of the home, and the penitentious spirits of the pantry and food stores were like family. Not distant deities to be intimidated, but silent guardians, always present, never seen, but always honored. Imagine this scene. Olive oil smoke curls upward. Incense mingles with the scent of grain. You were here each morning, tending this flame. Your father taught you these gestures, this order of reverence. You've done this since you were a boy, watching him move with quiet dignity. Now your sons are beside you, and you teach them, too, how to pour a libation without spilling a drop, how to touch the statue of the Lares with respect. Okay, as you watch, your thoughts drift. This religion isn't grand, but it's real, lived out in whispers, in gestures, in the feel of cool metal in your palm. It's a rhythm to life, like the changing seasons or the cycles of the moon. You don't question it, you live it. It's a small act of bravery, showing up each day, acknowledging the unseen. Okay, in that quiet act, finding strength. You remember tales your grandmother told of ancestors who walked these halls. Their ghosts linger here still. You believe, and you honor them, too. During the parentalia, when the boundary between worlds feels thinnest, then you bring flowers and the favorite foods of the dead, leaving them near the hearth or on an altar. You speak to them softly, as if they're resting nearby. You ask for their blessing and offer thanks. Life in Rome is full of uncertainties, okay? War drums echo in the distance. Fate can turn on a coin flip. Disease lingers in the shadows. But here in your lararium, there's a steady beat. As long as the flame burns, as long as the incense rises, you're held. Sometimes you find small charms lucky. A sneeze means fortune is coming. If a bird flies from the left, it's bad luck. Superstitions weave into daily life here, too. Your wife wears a charm against the evil eye, a bulla, an amulet around the baby's neck to keep harm from coming. You touch wood when you make a wish. Religion isn't just in grand temples. It's in every corner, hearth, and doorway. It's a constant companion. You've reached your lararium, a shrine built by your grandfather, you think? He came from a province, bringing the gods he knew to this strange new city. You see the influence of his homeland in the colors, the shapes, the tiles set into the floor. Here, Roman piety meets the old ways, and somehow it feels right. The gods are many. Their faces are kind. You don't need marble statues or towering temples to feel their presence. In the flickering lamplight, you see their eyes gazing back at you, and you know you're not alone. You're part of something vast, stretching from the humblest home to the heavens above. You're connected to your ancestors, to your children, to everyone who'll come after. And in that knowledge, you find peace. Our time in ancient Rome draws to a close, but I hope you'll keep a piece of it with you. Maybe it stills the feel of sun-baked stone beneath your sandals, or the echo of chariot wheels on the Via Sacra. Carry the spirit of Rome in your heart and let its stories inspire you. Thanks for joining me on this journey, okay? Until our next adventure, stay curious. Welcome to this segment on dining in ancient Rome. The ancient Romans were big on rituals, and dining was no exception. Their meals were a production, a carefully choreographed dance of etiquette, symbolism, and, above all, conviviality. Think of it as a cross between a state dinner and a family Sunday, complete with its own set of rules, customs, and a whole lot of deliciousness. First up, let's talk about the setting, okay? The Romans liked to dine in style, preferably in a room with low ceilings, dim lighting, and plenty of comfortable couches, okay? These rooms were called triclinia, and they were the perfect setting for a long, leisurely meal, okay? The furniture was arranged around a low table and 3 couches, each accommodating 3 guests. Now, you didn't just sit down at the table. Oh no, you had to recline on your left side at a precise 45-degree angle. Prop yourself up on one elbow and use your right hand to eat. Slaves, of course, were exempt from this particular torture and were allowed to stand while serving. Now, meals were no quick affair. They unfolded in 3 distinct courses: the gestagio, the prima mensa, and the secunda mensa. The first course, or gestatio, was a light offering designed to stimulate the appetite. Think of it as the amuse-bouche of ancient Rome. It might include small bites like olives, pickled vegetables, or even slices of figs. The main course, the prima mensa, was where the heavy hitters came in. This was the part of the meal that could include dishes like roasted meats, seafood, cheeses, and fruits. And believe me, the Romans loved their seafood. They would happily tuck into dishes like oysters, mussels, and sea urchins. The final course, the secunda mensa, was traditionally all about dessert and wine. It was also a good time for some after-dinner entertainment like music or poetry readings. Throughout the meal, guests would have their fingers cleaned with scented water. No utensils were required, okay? In fact, most of the food was already cut into small, bite-sized pieces, okay? Instead of plates, they used a kind of edible pastry that could be eaten along with the main dish. Speaking of food, what did these guys actually eat? Well, that depended on your social standing. The poor mostly stuck to a simple diet of bread, porridge, and olive oil, but the wealthier folks could indulge in a wide variety of foods, thanks to the extensive trade network of the empire. They ate dormice, a small European rodent that was fattened up and then stuffed with pine nuts and herbs before being roasted over an open fire. They also loved garum, a kind of fermented fish sauce that was used as a seasoning. Think of it as the soy sauce of ancient Rome. It was so popular that every self-respecting Roman kitchen had a supply of it. Other popular dishes included oysters, peacock, eggs, lentils, dates, honey-roasted nuts, and mulled wine seasoned with myrrh, an aromatic resin extracted from certain types of trees. Vegetables like leeks, cucumbers, and cabbage were common, as were fruits like figs, grapes, and pomegranates. Meats such as pork, poultry, and seafood from distant provinces were also popular, although they were often enjoyed only by the elite. And let's not forget about the wine. The Romans loved their wine, but they didn't drink it straight. They preferred to dilute it with water, usually in a 1-2-3 ratio. Drinking undiluted wine was considered a sign of barbarism. Each course came with its own type of wine, and the symposiarch, or master of ceremonies, would ensure that the party stayed lubricated throughout the evening. Now, this may seem like a lot of work just to have a meal, but for the Romans, dining was more than just sustenance. It was a way of life. It was a chance to show off their wealth and power, to entertain guests, and to celebrate the bounty of the empire. It was also a time for relaxation and enjoyment. It's a chance to escape the hustle and bustle of daily life and indulge in the pleasures of the table. So the next time you sit down to a meal, take a moment to appreciate the long and rich history of dining. Who knows, you might even pick up a few tips on how to throw the perfect dinner party. You know, I've been thinking about all those really interesting places we've explored in ancient Rome. We've talked about taverns and brothels, shops and temples, even gladiatorial training yards. But nowhere has been quite like today's location, which is unique in all of human history. Welcome to the cemetery. Yes, you heard me right, because today we are talking about death. Well, don't go anywhere. No need to look uncomfortable. We're going to discuss a subject that fascinated the Romans, but which often gets overlooked by historians. What happened to a person after they died? What were the final days like for the dying Roman? How did they bury their dead? And what could you do to remember them? Stay tuned and find out. Now, the best source we have on Roman funerals comes from the poet Catullus, who wrote a letter to his friend Cornelius, whose brother had recently died. In it, he offers a step-by-step guide to navigating those final days. So, let's imagine we are Cornelius. My father is old and sick, so my mother asks me to take care of him. I must wash his body, anoint it with oil, wrap him in a shroud, and lay him out on a mat. If he has passed peacefully in his sleep, I should be thankful. If not, I will try to calm him by speaking softly and offering wine or water. When he is gone, I will cover his face with a cloth, since seeing the dead was considered bad luck. Then the priest arrives to direct the ceremony. He sprinkles the room with water, gives thanks to the gods, and blesses the dead man. He places a coin in the mouth of the corpse, the fee for Charon. The boatman who ferries the dead across the river sticks into the underworld. Finally, I carry the body to the funeral pyre, usually built outside the city walls. There, the body is burned, the ashes gathered, and the bones placed in an urn. Only then can I grieve openly. After the cremation, the Romans buried their dead in tombs, some lavish, some humble, but always with respect. Grave markers often praised the accomplishments of the deceased and celebrated their civic virtue. Visiting these tombs was a way to honor the dead and maintain connections to the family's past. So death was not necessarily a tragic end, but a new beginning, a peaceful entrance into the afterlife. However, there were many rituals surrounding death and the afterlife that had to be performed correctly to ensure the safe passage of the soul. After someone died, their relatives observed a 9-day period of mourning called the parentalia. During this time, the family stayed at home, neglecting business and wearing old, dirty clothes to show they were unfit for social interaction. They offered sacrifices to the dead and held banquets in their honor. For the first 3 days, the family only ate and drank plain food and avoided all amusements. On the 4th day, they began to eat better food, and on the 5th, they could invite friends and relatives to share meals with them. On the 7th day, musicians were invited to play cheerful tunes, and on the 9th day, the family celebrated with a feast and sacrificed pigs. This 9-day ritual shows us that even though the Romans believed death was peaceful, they still felt the pain of losing a loved one. So now we understand how a Roman would die, what happened afterwards, and how the living honored the dead. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to get back to the studio. I have another video to record. I hear they're talking about chariots. Goodbye.